You're listening to Post-Dramatic Stress, hosted by Charlotte Dee, a weekly podcast to connect creatives and communicate about the highs, lows and laughs of being in a creative industry. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Post-Dramatic Stress. This one's all about the power of words, and today I am joined by two amazing gentlemen. I have Robert Dunne with me and Peter Ballinger. Oh no, I've stuffed it up early. Ballinger. Oh, I should have. I knew that would happen. I got all weird about it. Peter Ballinger. Hi guys, how you going?
Good.
Very
morning.
good, thank you.
Excellent. Good morning. Thank you so much for coming. Robert is a writer. Rob, rather. Sorry, he just told me he feels like he's in trouble when I call him Robert, and I've just gone and done it. Rob is a writer. He co-wrote a zombie novel with his brother called The Nothing Man. He has 2 novellas that are out in July with a US publisher, and he writes very humorous pieces for Froth Craft Beer magazine. And currently he's writing a book live called The Pepperwood Chronicles.
So, true, yes.
Yeah, Rob is all sorts of talented, so we're very lucky to talk to him today. And we also have Peter here, who in the past he was a host of a radio show, which we were just discussing is really quite similar to the goal here of Post-Traumatic Stress, called Calling All Artists. But in particular, he is also a spoken word artist and creator and host of a pub quiz entertainment business. And he also, in the past, called himself, or had a, a project called A Bloke's Voice, where he had spoken word pieces. Yeah.
Well, that's my website, is ablokesvoice.com.au.
Great, excellent. And may I just say how lovely both of your voices sound compared to mine on this podcast. So I feel the listeners are very lucky. They've usually got my little chirpy chipmunk voice, and they've got 2 lovely booming voices today, so that's great. So we can get to know both of you a little bit better. Rob, what makes you creative? What's your creative journey? Who are you as a creative person?
I just do it for fun, to be honest. I haven't got any end goals, any big aspirations to do anything. My main reason for doing stuff is because the thoughts bounce around in my head. If I'm driving for too long, they keep on bouncing around. When I'm trying to fall asleep, they bounce around. I put them on paper, make it make sense, and then it goes. So, and then the next thing bounces around. So yeah,
and for you that comes out via writing. That's the way for you to access those thoughts.
Yeah.
Very cool. I don't think there's a better reason than doing it than for fun, to be honest. I think that's great and
I don't
amazing.
do it if it feels like work. I don't do it if it feels like fun. I'll do it. Otherwise, that's my outlet, I suppose. It's what I do for my time, for me. That's
a good sign, I think, that you're onto something that's good for you if you're enjoying it. Yeah. And how about you, Peter? Same thing. Let us get to know you a bit more. What's your creative journey so far?
The creative journey happened only a few years ago. Before that, I was just too shy to talk in a room of 12 people. I wouldn't say a word. Yep. But I did karaoke one day.
Yeah.
And I realised halfway through the song, my life had changed forever.
Wow. What song was it?
I was only 19.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's actually a song that I perform spoken style now as part of my act.
Yeah.
But there was a big music break in the middle, and I thought, yes, I'm doing this. I'm holding the microphone. I'm doing the words. Let's get on with it.
What did you feel? What was it that you felt that had changed for you?
Just relaxed.
You just felt something. You just felt relaxed. You just felt like, interesting.
And away I went. And 3 weeks later, I was standing on stage at Naught to Naughty Cabaret doing spoken word.
That's so amazing, isn't it? I think you guys are quite similar in a way, like you both just felt this sense of fun and off you went. I think that's great. And I think we judge our creative juices so often, and I think that's so nice to hear, because often, like you say, you were too shy or whatever, and we censor ourselves so much. So it's just so nice to hear that you guys are just like having so much fun with it. I think that's lovely. I think I'm still working on that.
One day at a time, that's all it is.
Yeah, letting that judgment go. I think I personally get lots of ideas, and often, straight away that little voice comes in, people will think that's shit, or that's a bit weird, like you better not do that. So I love that you guys are just going out there.
I don't really have that. I'm not shy. I just don't like attention. So I don't mind stepping out and then doing it, but then when I realise everybody's looking at me, that's when I go...
Yeah.
I'm out.
You
Yeah.
cut that off.
Halfway through karaoke, I would have gone, whoops.
Yeah.
I would have bailed.
Oh no, people are staring.
Yeah.
Run away.
Yeah, well, now for me, you can fill a football field full of people, and
Yeah.
they can all stare at me and wait for me to say something, and I'm happy to say something.
And you love it. Do you think it's because you feel like you have something to say now versus
Yeah,
before?
yeah. Something
you weren't
entertaining to say.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not just the story, but it's the flow of the story and articulating what it is that I'm saying and putting
Yeah.
the emotion through it.
Do you think it was just the song that was that crack for you, or do you think, without realizing it, you've been working behind the scenes and you had a sense of just feeling more ready and more like you knew what your message was? Do you think that that had anything to do with it, or you just
Not quite. Because I'd been shy for so long, I wouldn't speak in a room of people.
Yeah.
But then I was going to watch my friends do karaoke for a long time.
Yeah.
And I thought that always looked like so much fun. I'll have a go at it one day.
Yeah.
And so no, on the way to that gig, I decided if it's going to be one day, it may as
Today's
well
the
be
day.
today.
Yeah, oh, I like that so much.
I just put my name down, closed my eyes, and hoped for the best.
And off you went. And I'm so glad that you did. That's amazing. And I love that sense of, one day is today, because I think, so often we think that our lives are just stretched out in front of us in this never-ending journey. We all, subconsciously know at one point it's going to come to an end, but we never really appreciate how precious the moment is, and that if you're just going to make something happen, just go ahead and do it now. So I really resonate with that. Well, the reason I brought you here today is to torture you, to talk to you about the magic of and the power of spoken words, particularly because for both of you that's a big outlet, and that seems to be the way you access your creativity and share your creativity with others. And in particular, I wanted to talk about the magic of written speech and what your words can do. So how much power you think words have. So maybe we'll start with you, Peter. What do you think, why do you think words can be so powerful?
Because they can take a person back to a place or something familiar or a memory from childhood. I performed the words to I Was Only 19 spoken style at the cabaret show. The only other sound in the entire place was people putting their cutlery down.
Yeah.
When I finished it, an elderly lady came over. She cupped my face, blew me a kiss, had a tear in her eye, and walked away.
Yeah.
Because and I looked over at where she was sitting, and there was a gentleman sitting with her who had 2 walking sticks, and he was about the age of the Vietnam War.
Right.
And it just evoked the whole. I don't even know what it was that it was for her.
Yeah.
But it must have hit something.
And it's amazing that you can not even, be aware that you're talking to that particular person, but something for them is happening so deep, inside their mind and their heart or their spirit or whatever it is, and you can move them that way just by standing up and performing a piece. That's, I think it does have so much power. What do you think, Rob?
I think that's pretty much bang on. You don't really, the words that we have can't actually express the real pain that you have or the real joy, either of those things. So there's no word that means real pain. There's pain, but it doesn't actually mean, I'm using pain for this instance, but it can go both ways, obviously. So when you do a story or you write a piece like that or you do a spoken word, it relates to people, and it will relate on different things, on different levels. And I love that. That book that we wrote, we had people messaging us and saying it did this for me, or this character was that, and we didn't write it like that, but you're so happy to see other people pick up on different things that they relate to. So I think that's what you don't even know it when you're doing it, but it's that that relationship, I suppose, that you're building with the other people.
Yeah, and it's they're the other side of your work without you knowing it, really, when you think about the power of the written word, because like you say, they're reading what you've written and you might have intended it one way, but because of their experiences and their moulding as a human being, they read that and it means something
else,
for them. It's just got so much power to change and be so many different things. It's
a little different when you write something that's supposed to be funny. You write a funny line and you want people to laugh at that point. And when they do, it's awesome. But when they don't, well, you just, okay, well, they didn't quite pick up the lines before or whatever, and you move through it.
Yeah, and that's okay because we're all different and we all have funny things that we find funny and things that we don't find funny, I suppose. And it's important when you're thinking about your writing, I would imagine, to think, well, not everyone's going to love this, and that's okay. And there's power in that too, because people might hear your joke or read your words and it's still going to make them feel something. I think it's that thing that we talk about art. It's art as long as it makes you feel something, you know? So it doesn't matter whether it's like or dislike, at least you've moved someone. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I've never written anything with what other people are going to perceive it, how they're going to take it. The only thing you probably censor yourself on is making sure you're not going to insult somebody or offend, a minority or something like that. Other than that, if it's funny to me, it's in. I don't care.
You don't censor it.
I don't care if anybody else is going to laugh at it or not.
Yeah.
I laughed at it, and all I want at the end of the day is a nice, neat little of my thoughts in paper, and I don't even read it again. It's just out, done, catalogued.
Yeah, I really like that's quite an interesting approach. I feel like I shouldn't, but I obsess over everything that I put out there, whatever kind of creative work it is. I watch it so many times and just find more and more stuff, that I'm like, I shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have done that. And instead, we never seem to do the opposite of like, oh, that was great. Oh, I didn't realise I did that. That's really cool. So I kind of like the idea of art just being art, and you just put it out there. It is what it is. It's uncensored and it's done. Yeah. And I really like that. I
think that's what I like about the sense of doing a spoken word piece is that's not the first and only time I'm going to do it. Yeah. So I strive to write it and get it 90% correct, but it gives me somewhere to evolve it as I perform it. In different times and different places.
Yeah, it's definitely different if you're performing because you do want to watch it back, I think, because you want to learn from it as well and you want to grow on it. But if it's a book and it's out and it's done,
you can't change
do
it,
anything.
I suppose.
You're not going to go change that sentence because it didn't quite sit with you well now and say, let's republish the whole thing. So there's no real point. You lived it for months or years, so...
And then it's done.
It's done, yeah.
I feel like I would want to be that person, but I would be the other person and be like, oh God, I'd be calling them going, can't we just edit? Yeah. Like, can't we just do a new copy? I think it's really admirable. I wish I had that as well. Talking about the power of, words and how it can affect other people. And, you say you just put your work out there and it's done and it's, you don't censor it, you don't worry about it. But do you think your work can attract, what am I trying to say, creative energy into your life? So whatever it is, you've written some kind of piece of work, it's out there. I guess I'm talking about the law of attraction, like what you're writing will attract maybe people to you that you might want to work creatively with, or it might attract certain things into your life because of what you've written. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my art doesn't really lend itself to being collaborative in that way.
Yeah.
But all I do is have the audience in mind. Like Rob was saying, we don't offend anybody, but we entertain them, and we evoke a spirit in them.
Yeah.
And that's what we do, and that I put that art out there to entertain folks and let them have a little think about things for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nice and it's good. I think we've done it here. I think you've just proved the point that you do put it out there, and we've never met before. We've never met before, so I think we have met before, but never had an
not
actual
in this
conversation.
Way. Yeah.
And it's good to. It definitely does, and you have almost like a bit more of a connection with somebody that is that like-minded, and you can talk about it as in depth. Because I know I've had conversations with people that are making that small talk, and they're, you do a bit of writing, do you? And they're just making small talk. When you tell them why you do writing and that, you can see it's...
Yeah, they're not.
It's not, and that's fine. It's definitely not a bash on them, but you can tell when it's another person that actually is interested and creative. I've been at parties before where I've never met the person, and it's 2:00 in the morning, and we're still talking about it, and we haven't spoken to anybody else the whole time. So you definitely do.
So even if it's not collaborative, as you were saying, Peter, I think it can still attract. It's still got power to attract people or energy into your life in that creative way. And like you say, here we all are talking about the power of the spoken word, because
it'd be the same as a sense of humour. You find somebody at a party that's got the same sense of humour. You might not have, you met him in the line at the toilet, and you just get on with them, and then you spend the whole night chatting and just laughing. I think it's the same sort of thing. You can really bond on those two things.
So with that in mind, do you then consider what you put out creatively for that reason? If you've now thought about that, hey, it can attract different things into my life and different energies and different...
Still no.
Nah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You've just got your own unique...
Yeah, well, look, when I do the radio show, I get people from all walks of art to come on the show and talk about why they get involved and what got them interested in the first place. And being a spoken word person, it gave me access to a lot of different people through the cabaret show. And they were the first folks that I had on the show. They were actually the whole reason that I created the show in the first place, is that you hear singers, bands, all that sort of thing being interviewed on the radio. Yeah. But where are the circus performers? Where are the jugglers? Where are the writers and sculptors? And so that's why I created it. Yeah. In that way, it collaborates because I need to get all of those people involved in and interested in the show.
Yeah.
And then we just go from there and expand everybody's awareness.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Rob? Do you think you were saying no? That's it. You don't?
No, I don't. I literally just put the stuff out there. I've said it before. I put it into the universe. The worst thing that's happened is I've had fun doing it. Yeah. That's the whole.
That's nice.
Vibe behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not a bad worst, is it?
Yeah.
So if we're talking about that then, and just you're happy just to have your unique sort of message, maybe that helps us segue into the next topic, which is articulating your message. I guess, how do you guys know? Do you know what your message is when you're trying to create a piece of work? Do you know what you want to say, or do you find it's more of like a stream of consciousness thing and you're just writing and it just comes out? Like if you're not censoring and you're not necessarily bringing that awareness to it, other than, not offending anyone, how do you... Does your message just come out of... Is it just in you? Do you know? How does it work?
I think it does. It depends on what you're doing. If I'm just doing a little beer piece, I just want it to be lighthearted, fun, and a little bit informative. I like people to learn a little bit while they're doing it as well. I did write a piece on male mental health, which took me a long time, but I think I said to you, if there's one thing you do read of mine, that's the thing I want people to read.
What's that called for our listeners?
I can't even... Oh, it's called The Sad Dad. It's in the Froth Mag, and I've got it up on my Facebook and stuff like that as well. But it was thoughts that I kept on having, and when you have a conversation, the annoying part is somebody else will talk back to you, and I didn't get all my points out. So I wrote this thing, and it'd be about 3,000 words, I think, something. It's supposed to be a blog, but it's probably too long for that. But that was probably the only thing I've written and sort of gone, these are my thoughts. I want them to be succinct and to make sense, and for people to still laugh about little lines in there on such a serious subject and really get my perspective across. And that's one of the best things I've had feedback from too, was that little... All around Australia, America, people just send me little messages saying thank you. So
yeah,
awesome.
Really cool. What about you?
Well, for me, when I write a piece, sometimes I'll start with the last line and then open my mind and create the story that leads up to that point.
Yeah. So do you have a message in mind when you start with that last line, or is it just something that has struck you, like a thought, something's happened that's affected you, or... Yeah,
that's exactly it. It's a thought that's struck. It's a twist in a tail of a twist in a tail of a tale.
Okay.
Then I'll just open the mind and let myself run towards that, or walk slowly, or stroll, or strut, or whatever I need to do to get towards that end. Sometimes I'll start with the first line, and then let that flow.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be something in the middle.
Yeah.
And they're all different. All stories are different.
So do you think the message is different for each piece you create then, in that case? And the articulation of the message just happens naturally as it goes along? Because you get this thought, it sounds like this similar for both of you. You've got some theme going on, and then the rest just happens.
Yeah,
and
it might not be a message. It might be a goal. The 2 different novellas I wrote. One I wanted to feel this way and to go to... I actually wrote the first one because I find most boys... my son reads now, and I used to read when I was his age, and then there's a gap where we don't read little boys. They sort of... It's not cool or anything like that. So I wrote this book with a goal of him being able to take it to school and say, no, this one's actually pretty cool. That's where the goal was behind it. It had no message other than I wanted to write it for that age group, I suppose, and for them to still enjoy reading over that period where they might not read.
Yeah.
The next novella, the goal was just write something that I've never read before, try to do something different. The first one fell out of me in about 3 weeks. The second one took about 2 years, and they're about the same size.
Okay.
They just do what they want to do.
They do it. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's just
They do flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no necessarily controlling of the message. It's just this creative process. Once you've got your sort of, it's more like a why is behind it, and then it's just
It's got to make sense in itself. You can't sort of guide it. You might do a bit, and then it has to take a different direction for it to all still make sense. So and then you might end up at a completely different spot to where you started, or
yeah.
you might end up exactly. Especially if you started at the end, you might get there no matter what, but you started somewhere completely different. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens with a lot of my creative projects. I think they're going to be something, and all of a sudden they are not. That happens a lot, and I'm not quite sure what that reason is. Staying on articulating your message for a little bit longer, when we think about writing versus speaking, I guess there's a difference there. Well, tell me what you think, but I think there's a difference there in the ability to articulate. I think there's more opportunity. I think you touched on this a little bit earlier. I think if you're writing something down, you've not got the interruptions there, so your message can just flow and get out there and be articulated exactly as you want it, versus speaking. You've got the other people's interaction, you've got the I suppose there's not as much time and to really articulate your thought and your message because you're on the spot. There's so much more you might have wanted to say. You're trying to think and talk all at the same time. I guess I'd like to hear about what your experience is in the writing versus speaking, and which one you think is more powerful.
I think. Sorry, I've started again.
No, go ahead.
It's my natural setting to think that the writing is that way. I think the person can't argue back with you either. When you have a conversation with somebody, you can tell somebody's thinking about what they're going to say next.
Yeah.
If they're reading, they won't have that. They'll just start at the start. If they get bored of it, or if they don't agree, they'll stop, or they'll get all the way to the end. So the trick is to make them get all the way to the end, and then you've said your bit. It's sunk in or it hasn't. But I think when you are talking, it's a two-way street. Whereas if they're reading it, it's all them. Well, it's all us, and then it's all them.
Yeah, I think the difference there is when you're writing, you can say as much as you like. There may be one word to say 10 words, but when you're writing it, you want to put down all those 10 words because they are evocative.
Yeah.
But having a conversation, you find yourself becoming succinct and shortened and...
So that you can get your message across quickly and make people listen.
Yeah.
I suppose there's power in both of those, but different kinds of power in there, because, if you're writing all your message down, and yes, it's well articulated and it's exactly what you want to say, but then you do have that risk of, well, I don't have to read it.
Yeah.
So there's like an increased power, but there's also a loss of power there in your message. But then with speaking, I guess, you can lose some power because you may not be able to articulate everything as well and as quickly, but also maybe there's more power in there because, you've got that emotional sort of contact with the person. They can, and maybe you can change your message depending on how the person's, responding to you. And if they're looking really offended by what you're saying, you can, rejig it and think, okay, well, I'm going to come at it from another angle. So there's different power in both of those. But then...
And also, if you're speaking to somebody that you know and have known for a long time, you can use the common vernacular, terms that you both understand. And they can say, 10 different things at once.
Yeah, whereas if you're writing, you don't know your audience yet. So how do you make sure you're finding that...
more broad, I suppose.
Yeah, that common ground. So therefore, does your message change because of that? Because you have to reach a wider audience? Like when you're writing things down, do you find that maybe it is censored a little bit because you have to reach a wider range of people?
I don't, because I write down what my message is, but I could see that it might change for that if you're writing for like a magazine, or if you had an audience that you were aiming it at. But we're just putting it out in the universe, so it's just it just has to be our thought. It doesn't have to be targeted at anybody. So
Like I said before, we just stay respectful. And make sure nobody's offended by it.
Yeah.
And you can use language that doesn't have to be crass and vulgar, but you can still be evocative and thought-provoking in it as well.
That brings us to our next topic, actually. It's a really good segue. I wanted to talk about ethical writing and the responsibility of your words. And you'll say, I think it's been a common theme here, not to offend anybody, but I just want to put the question to you, why is it wrong to offend someone? Is it wrong? Are we an over-offended society, or is it right to be respectful? I'm just wondering. I'm putting the question out there. I'd love to hear what you think.
There is a difference. If there's intent behind that offence, then that's definitely wrong. You know, if you're deliberately going out there to offend a certain type of person or a minority or a group or whatever you're trying to do, I don't think that's, you know, if it's just so people will start reading or listening, I don't think that's ethical. And I know I would just, whether it offended me or not, I'd be out of it. I do think we are overly sensitive, but it's more to the point that I think, you know, if somebody does get offended but it wasn't deliberate, I think we can get over that, can't we? If it wasn't intended, we learn, okay, that's not what we do, and we all move on. We all get a little bit educated, but we don't need to jump up and down and change things because of that. Yeah,
I think it depends where the offence comes from. I think because there's lots of things out there. My favourite thing is Ricky Gervais, was talking about Twitter and people being offended, and he's like, he compares it to there being something, in a town square with like guitar lessons and someone going up to the board going, I don't want fucking guitar lessons, and it's like, well, then don't have them. Not everything is for you. So I think it's my view anyway is that it's okay for people to be offended. And I do agree with the intent that as long as you're just saying your piece and that's who you are, it's okay actually that not everyone agrees with you, but it doesn't mean... And they have the right to then respond to you and say, I don't agree with you, and that's fine. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you should have to censor, I think, what you're saying, unless, like you say, maybe it's racist or it's inciting violence or, something like that. I think free speech is really important. What do you think, Pete?
Well, that's exactly it. Free speech is what it's all about, and everybody has a right, I guess, to say what it is on their mind, but you don't have to offend people to do it. Yeah. You don't have to look somebody in the eye. Don't get me started on Piers Morgan. But, look, the underlying message is be kind with your writing. Just be kind. And the more people will listen to it.
Simple. I like the idea of being kind, but also I like the idea of just, I hate the idea of offending someone, but I also don't like the idea of having to be censored just because my view is different. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think it's just this strange grey area of But
I think you can get your view out without offending people, and if you can't do that, work on it till you can.
Do you think that's possible always? Because
you're going to offend somebody, but it depends on their offence, if they're offended or they just didn't like it.
Or they're just flat out shocked.
Yeah, there has to be some people you do have to say, just keep scrolling then.
Yeah, this isn't for you. The guitar lessons aren't for you. That's okay.
Exactly,
yeah. Okay. I think continuing with ethical writing or responsibility of your words, if you do put something out there and it is offensive and, you've done all the right things, it's just your piece and, someone's just offended, how do you own that? And generally, do you own your writing? Once your piece is out there, your views, let's say what am I trying to say? You have a view, you've offended someone, but what about 10 years later when you feel differently and that writing's still out there? What is the responsibility of your words that you've put out there at later stages in your life when your views have changed?
I think the way I write is four-dimensional. And I know that one of the dimensions is time, and I put something in there that I feel comfortable with
at the time,
and in future time, I know that I'm going to still be comfortable with that.
Okay.
And so I don't put anything in there that will be considered offensive.
So you think very carefully about it and
very,
really
very
consider it. Okay.
I don't think I've ever really put anything out there that could offend somebody, and if it does in 10 years' time, then. Well done on finding it.
Well done.
Going back that far. The closest we've had is a 1-star review on Amazon on the book, and my brother and I, we high-fived after that. We made it somebody hates it and they went out of their way to tell us they hate it.
Yeah,
we think
that's true.
We thought it was great, but yeah, what you're talking about, I don't think it would. I don't think it would come across. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't written anything that would be the equivalent of having a photo of me in blackface in my high school yearbook.
Well, that's great.
And that's the way I work. It's all about being kind.
Yeah.
So I'm happy with everything I've done.
Yeah.
No regrets whatsoever.
That's good. Okay, interesting. We've reached the 30-minute mark. That went really quickly for me. I'm not sure if that went quickly for everyone at home, but I hope it did because I was really enjoying that. But I've got one more question after this, but beforehand, we've reached our sort of check it out scene. In particular, checking you guys out. Tell us a little bit more about your stuff and where we can find it. What are you doing?
After me, okay.
Yeah.
My website is ablokesvoice.com.au.
That's a good voice.
That is a good voice.
See, I can do voiceovers. I can do your answering machine messages.
I'd love you to do my answering machine message.
I can also, if you are a writer and you would like your work voiced, send me an email, send me a copy, and I will voice that for you.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. But I also do pub quiz. So coming to a pub quiz near you, it's Quiztralian.
Quiztralian.
Quiztralian. I am the only all-Australian pub quiz operator in the world.
Wow.
Cool.
That's just the way I like it.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've took a year off work and wrote a database of 13,500 quiz questions.
13,500. That's
yeah,
I can't even imagine how long that took you. And also, your brain must be amazing.
Oh, and it's still evolving. Well, I don't remember everything, but it's still evolving. I mean, there are still things that are coming up that need to be added to my quiz questions.
Okay, so you're available to run and host those?
Sure.
Yeah.
For sports club fundraisers.
Yep.
For any sort of fundraising activities, pubs.
Yep.
I'm here. It's a fun night. It's 4 rounds of multiple choice with a twist.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, so get on board.
Excellent. I like the twist. The twist is good.
Oh yeah.
Wonderful. And how about you?
The usual garb, just on Facebook and Instagram. I pretty much follow everybody that wants me to follow them on both.
Lovely.
The Pepperwood Chronicles is my favourite thing that I'm doing at the moment, where I'm just writing a paragraph whenever I get to it and posting that live, so you can read chapter by chapter.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Talk a little bit more about that.
It's it started off just as a bit of fun. In my head, I've got it all planned out. I know who done it and how it's all going to happen.
Yeah.
We'll see if we get towards that bit, and I've written certain scenes that sort of just popped into my head. But yeah, it is. It's just, I think we're up to chapter 3 now. I'll probably do chapter 4 tonight after a couple of beers and post that up. And again, it doesn't bother me if people read it, if they don't read it, but it's just, again, fun. That's what I want to do.
And where do we find that specifically?
Facebook, the Pepperwood Chronicles.
Facebook, the Pepperwood Chronicles.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Yep. I love that. Very good. My last and final question is a follow-up question. How do you structure your writing process, and what brings the most amount of creativity and why?
Well, a quiet place is what I need, and an idea. It all has to start with an idea. If I haven't got one, then I move on to something else and carve a piece of wood or go for a ride or do something else. But I need to have that creative
spark
flick to get me going.
Yeah. And then after that, once you've got it, you just need a quiet place.
And quiet place and a way. I just let it flow out of my head.
Yeah. And you just type it down?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like sometimes my ideas are so visual I can't. I need someone to get inside my brain and put them out for me. I find my articulation is terrible. I need to work on that. I have to talk to you guys. How about you? How do you structure your writing process, and what brings you the most amount of creativity and why?
Mine's all over the shop as well. I have the notes on my phone is ridiculous, just with little ideas that pop in. It might be a paragraph for this one, or maybe they can do this next, so I'll do it that way. Like I said, I will never force myself to do it. That's editing. That's work, and I don't like doing it. But the actual process of doing it, I enjoy. So, I might say, I've got some free time, like I said, then this afternoon. But if we get too busy at home and then, we've got to do dinner and all that, and I'm too knackered at the end of the day, I'll just push it aside.
Yeah.
If I'm getting to the pointy end, if I've got to do the editing, I'll at least open the laptop and see what happens. Usually something will happen, but in the actual creative process of building the story, it's all about just doing it when I want to do it. I don't want to make it another thing that I have to do. So
you don't want it to feel like work.
Yeah.
It needs to, okay, guys, I've reached the 35-minute mark now, so I really do. I want to talk to you all day, but I am going to have to close it off. I will make sure I post the details of both of you on our Instagram page and Facebook page so they can find you and love you and all those sorts of things. If you want to, if you're listening, you can also find us at on Twitter at dramatic_post, on Instagram at postdramaticstresspod. And if you want to email us, get in touch, tell us something, tell us how you felt about today, or come on the show, you can do so via postdramaticstresspod@gmail.com. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much, Rob, and thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciated you guys coming today, and I've really enjoyed our chat.
Thanks
so thank you so
invite.
much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and see you next week for episode 5. Here we go. Thank you for listening to Post Dramatic Stress. To connect with us or to register to come on the podcast, visit us at www.lettingcharlotteout.com or email us via postdramaticstresspod@gmail.com.